Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. As you can see, it's just the two of us, myself and the exiled one, Tommy Lyons. I'm Ian Fortune. And for the next hour or so, we're going to bring you through all the action from the racing weekend, which, of course, was dominated by the final of the Barwon Racing Irish Laurels, the Derby of the South. Tommy Lyons, we were both down there. It was a miracle it was even on. Unbelievable work was done by the track staff. I sort of hit the track around 4, 4:15, and they had bought silage wraps, and the whole place was covered. There was tires and tires and tires. There were, I would say, a couple of thousand liters on top of that easily. And when they were lifting them off about 4:45, you could just see the water pouring over the edge. But in the end, track conditions were pretty tremendous. And yeah, we got there. There was a good crowd on the stands for the final itself, and a great crowd there in general.
There's a lot of horse racing tracks that would love to have the water in the center of the track that they had the other night. Just for water tracks during the summer, it was. I've never seen it as bad. I don't even ever seen as much resting water in it. It was a miracle. I'd say the fellow who was driving the tractor was dizzy by the time racing started. I'd say he had to go around with that many times and to get it in
I'd
such
say
good
he's walk.
condition. I
I'd say
mean,
he's walking around the kitchen in circles still.
yeah, didn't quite get home yet. It's like it was a huge performance just to get the racing to go ahead, and I know it was important because it was on television and big final and all that, and a lot of reasons you couldn't really miss it. But in fairness, like the track was back maybe 40 or 50 spots. I think that's a really good performance
Yeah,
to get it to that. It really was,
yeah, it really
and there was a big
was.
crowd. It was a
Yeah,
big crowd. Like I know. We talked about it Saturday night, and the fact that people were all crammed in under the stands, it made it look a bit bigger maybe than it was or whatever. But still on the night that was in it, I mean, I came up from East Cork and the roads were pretty bad, and I can only imagine that apparently I actually saw videos from a few friends that were in West Cork during the day, and if you were coming from that side like I mean, even the idea of going out and it was you'd be saying, "Oh, I really can't," even if it's a Laurels fine. Like I'm watching television or
I
something.
I
So
heard I,
like,
I heard a couple of stories. Brian Collins was telling me that his brother
mm,
was due to come and he was on his way, and a road he normally uses was actually washed away. The road was
yeah,
gone. So I think that sums it up. And for those that did make the journey, well, firstly they were treated to some tremendous action, but you got to give congratulations to them and well done, because we always talk about the sense of occasion. And Laurel's final night is one of the true occasions in Irish Greyhound racing. It's always very, very well supported. And that again was the case on Saturday night when people had every excuse not to go. Obviously, it's on Virgin Media. The weather was horrific, but they came out, and fair play to everyone involved.
yeah, exactly. And there was a contingency plan. The only one negative I would have is the bookmakers went to that little spot just outside the doors as you leave the stand, and that it just causes such a bottleneck. I mean, I just wanted to go out in the stands to watch the final, trying to get out there. I thought I was going to miss the final, to be honest about it. I mean, that's not a place for them. And something has to change. Something had to happen, obviously, because where they were, there you couldn't even write in the boards. The rain was coming right in on top of the boards. I mean, they need to find a contingency. I know it won't happen very often where you have a crowd that big and the weather will
The,
be that
the
bad.
the end
Like
the
it's a
end of the
perfect
stand
storm.
the end of the stand opposite the little parade area is probably the better idea, that sort of down there,
It's
because there's
just
not
you're
that
put
many of them.
it's just that you're pushing, yeah, you're pushing them away from the center of the action, which is where they need to be. Just I don't know what the solution is, but something different needs to happen. You can't have people, and I'm sure for it's a health and safety risk too, having the door blocked up like that in case people had to get out of the stand or whatever for whatever reason. It's not a good place for them to be quite honest about it. But in fairness, that aside, there were some interesting things because when we get on to the final, we'll talk about prices and all that sort of stuff. And it was a winning favorite if you're going by industry SP. I don't think it was a favorite on the track.
Yeah, I know but that's the way the world is working these days. I don't think anyone actually knows how the industry SP actually works, but it was a mind-boggling situation Saturday night. We'll get to it. Again, there was some tremendous action. You said about the track. I was speaking to a couple of people that said they walked the track and it was absolutely perfect, and they were actually surprised that it was as back as far as it was. But then, if you see the flags in the middle of the track, it was the wind was absolutely howling into their faces on the run in, especially, and to the obviously to the corner first time up. So that's going to affect the times because there's only so much extra speed they can get down the back straight. Plus, you're that little bit more sheltered there. But I think that was affecting times also. But let's talk about the Oaks champion, a Crafty Shivoo, trained now by Pat Norris, having spent much of her career with Mark Wallace in the UK, having won the Sporting Press Irish Oaks as a youngster for the Dively family. She was sold early in that competition to the MWD partnership, who have put so much money into the sport in recent times and are having a go at sort of enhancing the sport over in the UK. But this Crafty Shivoo, Tommy, She's a special lady. I think we were both of the opinion that we saw glimpses during the stake that would suggest she was capable of this type of run. I said it to you after the race. I don't think she had any right to lead off that start. For her to get across and lead Romeo Taylor like she did was nothing short of a Herculean effort.
Yeah, it was huge. And then the winning and losing of the race was at the first bend where she, I mean, I watched the unraced final maybe, and I think I thought it was one that got around. It was actually five because it was difficult to see what exactly was happening. Maybe it's my eyesight, maybe it's old age, but I actually thought it was Romeo Taylor that got around in front because I thought from the angle I was at that Romeo Taylor was in the prime position along the inside, and she just drove that bend, and that was the winning and losing of the race. Like she's fortunate in the fact that she has that blend of early pace and stamina. She has a lot of class about her. Pat Norris said it afterwards in the interview. He said not she did a 17:35 sprint prior to the Laurels, and he said, but not many people realize that she did 5:03 sectional. He says, which is phenomenal, and
Yeah.
she needed that type of acceleration into the bend to win the Laurels. She had. We talked about it earlier in the competition. I said after the first round she was the most obvious winner. My idea of the most likely winner of the Laurels after the first round. Now on the final night at the price, I was willing to oppose her. Even money just was tight, and I think if you pause it after 5 yards, you're thinking, yeah, even money is very tight still. But actually, funny enough, I mentioned the prices earlier on. A fellow walked by me after the final. He said, "Gee, she was some price," and I was like, "What was she?" 9-4 on track.
Yeah. It's I was told she was 5-2 in a place.
Well,
Um
like there was like I know I tipped Troop is Polish, right? I did it on value terms. I talked here last week that the top and bottom are too big, right? They were 10-1 and 16-1. And 20-1 actually Hazel Hill Booker went out to at one stage. So they were basically 10 and 20-1. And on track, I would suggest that the top bitch went off 2-1 favorite.
that is truly mind-boggling. You know,
That's too short. There's
I
like
spoke
if
about
you're
I
if you,
spoke about this. Now you made a case for her last week at a big price, and that's fine.
yeah,
But
that's
she
what it
has the
was. It was a
price.
price.
I sort of made her around a
Yeah.
6-1 chance purely on the draw. Like if she's any way further off the fence, I'd have made her double figure odds. And
Yeah.
yet, as you say, going off 2-1 favorite. I know people perceive that trap one is the place to be in Cork, but in a classic final against these type of performers,
Well,
she'd need to be doing
she
absolutely everything right.
she see the thing is like she's a breaker. She's a breaker. She doesn't necessarily have electric early pace, but she is a breaker. But she didn't break the other night, so her race was
Yeah.
gone. But it was the ideal draw because I had a feeling that Romeo Taylor would go up kind of honestly, and then maybe at the bend he certainly wouldn't be diving in, and he'd be kind of maybe edging off very slightly. I thought she'd get a beautiful run along the inside. But you saw the way it was, and I talked about it with a lot of people there Saturday night. It was difficult to get around the bend on the inside, and we had
Yeah.
to factor that in. It was difficult. You didn't see too many races where he slipped around in front, and that again down to the track, the water, not the maintenance was great, but it was just the way there was so much water. And what's going to happen is the water's going to fall in, as we know, and sit. If it's going to sit anywhere on the track, it's going to sit along the inside, likely where it starts to meet the edge of
It
the
was
track.
a
So
case of we spoke before the race and we were trying to make cases for dogs on the outside in most of those contests. You know,
mm,
like Dynamic Force, obviously
yeah,
he was a hot
I,
favorite anyway. He obliged. Droopy Supply ran very well on the
yeah,
outside. You have to mention Hazel Hill Bucko on second run so well for Lucy Roach in second
yeah,
spot after missing the kick. You know, he should grade her to
yeah.
speed up around them. I met Lucy, I'd say 20 minutes after the final, and she was like, I mean, just ecstatic, just so happy and delighted.
Rightly
And you know,
so.
when you finish second in the classic, you're almost expecting them to be a bit downbeat. And you know, she was just so chuffed. You know, she just couldn't believe it and
Rightly so.
absolutely delighted with the dog. You know,
That dog did her proud throughout the
yeah,
competition
absolutely,
and in the
yeah,
final.
absolutely,
And
yeah,
I had to ride a bit of a bump at the first bend. I actually said to somebody on the stand when I was watching the race, I said, Hazel Bucko wins now when we got around the second bend. But I didn't realize it was
you
Crafty
thought it was
Shivoo
Romeo
who
Taylor.
won. I thought it was Romeo Taylor, and I thought Hazel Bucko would pick up Romeo Taylor. But
I'm only I've only watched really the track replay this morning. It's a very
yeah,
different angle than the
yeah,
Virgin Media track the other night
okay,
because on the Virgin Media angle, whatever way it is, it's a bit higher and further down the track. you can see the Crafty Shivoo is after outpacing Romeo Taylor into the corner, where in the video it looks like she drove the corner. But in the actual Virgin Media pictures, you can see her showing the early speed to get around him and to get in front of him. Like she's 9/10 of a length in front of him, let's say, on the opening corner, and then drives the rest
Yeah,
of the way.
yeah, yeah.
And it's amazing how the angle can make such a difference. I spoke to someone recently about, Ben Keith of Star Sports after buying a track in the UK, Pelog Grange, and I said the first way to immediately enhance the experience for people, or to get your track a bit more of a reputation, is to greatly improve the camera angle. And obviously that's impossible in places, but the tracks that you remember and the tracks that people like to punt at are the ones with a good camera angle. It makes a huge difference. Now,
Well,
Cork has a decent camera angle. I'd love it to be 15 yards higher. You know what I mean? But like, it's still a good camera angle.
I think I might be wrong. You'll have to correct me on this one. Toaster. I think in Toaster for the Derby, they had a head-on camera as well, which they didn't show. No, they didn't show
No,
it like live, obviously, but they had a head-on camera, which is absolutely brilliant for replays, or if you're trying to assess a race, particularly
the English
like
Derby,
well,
they've been doing that head on camera for the English
yeah,
Derby for a few years now at
yeah,
this stage,
yeah,
and it's
it's
great.
brilliant.
It's great,
I,
and it could
I,
be a fixed
I,
it could be a fixed camera. Like that doesn't have to be a
that's
massive cost
I
or
was going to say that could be a tiny pinhole camera down at the end that no dog
yeah.
is going to see. Yeah, look, there was lots of aspects about it. I'll tell you what, one of the most important things for Crafty Shivoo, apart from her own class and ability that got her through, High Trend is a deeply, deeply honest dog. He
Yeah.
went up exactly like we said last week. He went up as straight as a gun barrel until he got close to the bend. He doesn't dive in. He wants to run a good race, and line is what he wants to do.
I was talking to JBM before we went on air, and he said to me, like, what do you think? I said, well, I think with a start, Crafty Shivu wins. He said, but will High Trend not take her ground? I said, Jimmy, we spoke about it last week. I said, if she traps on terms, he doesn't edge in on her. He will go up
No.
straight and then look to go in on the corner. That's exactly what he did. As you said, he's as honest as the day is long. And like, if ever a dog was deserving of a draw during the competition, like he never got a
Yeah.
draw in the ladder rounds at all.
Like
Like he
he,
finishes last, and you're going, geez, he ran a hell of a race.
he could have been a two-time Laurels winner. I know as it happens the way the track raced, maybe it couldn't have happened, but I would have been napping him as a certainty if he were drawing trap one in the final. I would have thought he was the one dog in the final lineup that was a certainty to win if he was in trap one. You put any rest in trap one and say
And he certainly
obviously
would have been
enhance the
favoured.
chances.
Imagine if he'd been in trap one, he could have gone off odds on the way they were punting on Saturday night for the inside. Let's get back to the winner. Crafty Shivoo is the Laurels
Yeah,
champion. Obviously, it was reported in the Racing Post that she was retired. That story was quickly sort of scrubbed and designated to the bin within a matter of days, because she appeared down to be trained by Pat Norris, and that 17:35 trial appeared on her card. It was a sign that she was very well in herself, that she was obviously coming over to Pat in great nick as well. That's no surprise coming from Mark Wallace. Like he's a genius, but joining a genius also. My father, I remember my first experiences with Pat Norris. When it first really sort of came to my prominence was when Up the Junction reached the English Derby final back in. They were telling me, I haven't checked it this morning, 94. I can't believe it's 94. Moral Standards, I think, won that year's English Derby. I was there, and Dad said, he was always of the opinion, like, he spoke about Pat Norris like, if there's a euro for this dog, just get on. You know what I mean? Like, when, you know, there's not much
that's
Pat
yeah.
doesn't know about greyhounds, right? And I've always grown up thinking Pat was this sort of, stern greyhound man, just like look after the dog. That's all. There's no flash to Pat, right? He just looks after the dogs, gets on with his own business. Probably a type of fella, his left hand doesn't know what his right hand is doing. Would tell no one anything, telling the secret to someone now would kill him. But we saw a different side to him on Saturday night.
It
Obviously
was
he was
emotional.
he was there, yeah, he was there with his wife Alina, his three sons, David, Jack and Patrick. And when the interview happened, I actually felt briefly for Sarah when she started to interview him, and he says, "Oh, I'm stuck for words." And I'm going, "Oh, we've been here before. This could be a nightmare." And the next minute, she asked him about, those that work with them and whatnot, and all of a sudden, he just blossomed, and he was emotive, and he just got it all out there, and you could see what it meant to him to win a classic,
Yeah.
but to also win his local classic. A man out in Mitchelstown. He tried to convince me to come out to Mitchelstown with them. I said, I stayed in the Roachtown. He says, "Don't worry, we'll get you back there in the morning." I was going, Yeah, I think I'll leave that one there, but enjoy your celebrations. But it was great to see him. Himself and his wife were 38 years married on Saturday night. That was their wedding anniversary. A nice way to celebrate it. But you gotta say, Tommy, like just absolutely expertly brought through the competition. He showed me a picture. She badly scraped, I suppose, is the terminology, herself in the second round, and her inside of her leg was red,
Yeah,
red raw. And
yeah.
and to get her back to do this run, 28:52 the night, like it's down to 50 slow, Tommy. Like that could have been 70 slow. Like that could be a
Yeah.
27:82 run on a good track.
It's look, the whole thing is impressive because the timeline. I mean, she ran in England in, I think it was 29th of June, was it, or July? 29th of June, I'd say. Her last race in England.
Would that have been
She
English
didn't have a
Derby
long
final?
time.
That'd have been English Derby final night,
She
29th of
said
June. Yeah.
he said that there were never plans to retire her. That was never ever on the cards. She came over to him with the intention of running in the Derby. And then they decided, you know what, she could be in season.
If she got that far because she was due in season in November.
He said
Yeah,
concerned that she could come in season, and he said we'll take a chance and we hope she doesn't come in season during the Laurels. And it was all a bit of a rush. And so, to my mind and to your mind, looking back at it, I suppose maybe a little bit, it's no surprise that she was better at the end of the competition than she was at the start of the competition. That's her best performance, I think. That final, that on finalised. So, like, I mean, she's been expertly handled. And I tell you what does it say about the bitch that she can be so good for the Divillies and winning Oaks? She can be so good for Mark Wallace in England for so long, so consistent, win so many races, come back to a third kennel and be as good again. What does it say about the constitution of that bitch? I mean, that she's obviously absolutely ice cool. Everything just goes in her stride.
she's a superstar. She's a
Yeah.
proper lady. She's a
And I don't
proper
think we,
proper lady.
I don't think we appreciated it when she won an Oaks last year. We didn't. I certainly didn't make much of her as she won an Oaks.
I was heartbroken when I heard that she was going to the UK. Heartbroken because she was very much in the Susie Sapphire mold, where she went into that Oaks going, she's a nice young bitch, she's a lovely turn of early, give her the
Yeah,
inside, she'll run well. And you know, I've given Peter Dibley more than a bit of stick over the last year and a half. I say, you sold that bitch a bit early, didn't you?
mhm.
And like, if they'd held on for 2 more weeks, then it got probably three, four times the price.
Yeah,
That's the simple fact of the matter. She grew and developed so quickly from the first round at Oaks, after her Puppy Oaks success, from the first round at Oaks to the final. It was unbelievable. And she was only starting to really fly in that final. I think she did what she do, 28-12 or 28-14 in the final. I don't have the card open. Hang on, open up now. Um, so if you look at her progress through that Oaks, right? She
yeah,
does, like, she's winning in 28-50s and 28-80s, 28-60, 28-40 then, 28-90 she's beaten. She runs very well in the semi-final, the Oaks beaten in 28-54. Then all of a sudden she's in trap one in the final. And from the 8-1 in the semi-final from trap three, she's all of a sudden, she obviously ran that well. She's now 3-1 in the final of the Oaks. She pops out and does a 28-14, and then she's away. Like, she basically
yeah.
suffered. I'd say in the UK she probably has two, three defeats ever. One of them came in the Derby where she was. I think she was disputing favoritism at one point. She was ragging the very best they had on offer. She ragged a couple of hours. She had that unbelievable tussle with Deladi Da right in the middle of the Derby, and that probably was
Yeah.
her undoing in the Derby itself. Because she put in so much effort that night to hold the laddie da by a length, and deservedly so. But like Tommy, she's a class act. Like
Absolutely.
28-36, 28-36 in her first run in Cork. And then to go through the Laurels, like she ran a blinder that second night, when the night she was balked, the night she picked up the injury. And as we said in the third round, you know, she ran a big race in defeat at 2-5. Like, she's beaten
Yeah.
6 lengths in the third, but you could just see, like, she just has the desire to get through, and she ran so well. And Pat has obviously nursed her since then. Again, it's estimated 28:02 on Saturday night, and I think that's probably doing her a little bit of a disservice. I think it's sub 28 second run every day of the week. And if she does turn up for the Derby, season dependent, I'll tell you what, she'd be on my short list.
Yeah, like you probably couldn't back her because of that
Mm,
you know impending season, maybe, or it's certainly be in the back of your mind. But quality wise, you'd say she'd be tight to go very, very deep in the competition, and she stays really well. I mean,
yeah.
this race was over. this race is over now. The second man, even though I didn't realize it because I thought it was Romeo Taylor in front. But
You gotta stop
in
saying that,
hindsight,
Tommy.
it was over. It was an unassailable lead out of the second bin. Hazelhill Booker ran his heart out. He did he did what I saw in the semi final, and I thought maybe with I thought he had a chance regardless of the ground condition. And when the track was the way it was, the rain was the way it was, I thought this is going to suit him actually. It's gonna make it more of a stamina test. There's going to be a little bit of trouble along the inside. It's going to be more difficult for them to get around on the inside. I thought Hazel Buck had a great chance. And he ran an absolute miller, got a bit of a bump at the bend. I think it's the nearest thing at this stage in terms of around Curaheen Park. It's hard to get it clear from there. And as a wide seed, one only two wide seeds in the entire competition. I mean, to get to a Laurels final and to finish second, huge effort, absolutely
Yeah.
huge effort. Romeo Taylor ran a fine race too. He broke well. I think he's probably limited over 5.25. I don't want me to be harsh on the dog, but I thought I I didn't fancy him for the final, but when the conditions were the way they were, I thought he'd really struggle. I just didn't think it was for him. That's a it's a tough get home now in the conditions the other night. So Droopy's Polish missed it completely. Seek the Kingdom. Look, he was the one that was hardest to make a case for, and he had a tricky draw and needed lots of things, and it was just going to be difficult. And as I said to you, High Trend had a 3:23 earlier in the competition. Needs to go back to something like a 3:15 or something to get around in
Yeah.
front from the draw. And he's so honest, as I said, he went up straight as a gun barrel and then decided what he always was trying to round the bend. He's not trying to dig in on dogs.
In
He's
the in
not
the in
railing
the in
down
the in
dogs.
the first or second round of the derby, he'll end up in trap one or trap two some night, and he'll
Oh, there's
probably
a
hack
run.
up. Yeah,
There's a
he'll hack
run.
up an
There's a
even
run in
money or
them. Yeah.
some
Oh,
night, and you'll
even
be
on that
going,
trip. Yeah.
yeah, and connections will be going. Well, geez, if only he'd had one or two in the final, there's a
No, I know the Laurels wasn't, this year's Laurels wasn't didn't go for Graham Holland. He has plenty of Laurels, but like the great performance to get High Trend back into a final, and particularly for a dog that had beset by bad draws right throughout the competition. I
yeah.
mean, you could hardly make them up.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. That's it. The Bar One Racing Irish Laurels. Obviously it's one of the jewels in the crown, Tommy. And as I said, a very emotive Pat Norris the other evening was there to pick up the trophy on behalf of the owners, the MWD syndicate. Um, yeah, great scenes afterwards. Obviously, big crowd. We must mention Bar One Racing, good sponsors, and like judging by their sponsorship of the Irish Sprint Cup, they're there a long time. Now I know they're based up in that direction, but I would suggest that we'll see them for a few years yet at Curaheen.
Well, I think the fact that it was on television too is a great bonus to them. I think that was important as well. They got. Do you know what I'd say about the final? When I saw the draw just after the semi-finals, I thought, oh, like this could go anyway. Sometimes you're kind of going, I don't like that. Do I really want a 16-1 chance to win the final because of the draw or because of loads of trouble? Do you know what? The funny thing is if you
It almost enhances the winner's achievements.
it twisted so that well, none of you are getting this easy, and then you go and get a performance of class, a real class from Crafty Shivoo. So it actually nearly makes it better that she was able to do it from a difficult draw. I don't know what her exactly ideal draw, probably trap one, but maybe not on the night. It actually might have worked in her favor, but just to see a bit of quality from it was a very pleasing end to actually the final. The final was better than the rest of the competition. And I think that's a good way to finish the Laurels.
Absolutely, absolutely. For what it's worth, I'd paint the white jacket on her back. I think trap three is her draw. But I'm more of that opinion anyway. I think there's probably a little bit more room for error at times there from Trey. And it's the bingo box as far as I'm concerned. But no, a tremendous Laurels final again. Well done to the sponsors. A huge congratulations to everybody on the track. There must have been about 35 people out there with shovels and I've never seen so much rain gear in all my days. And lads that 2 hours later were walking around in suits and going, well, lads, you came well prepared. I said I would have helped out, only I didn't have a shovel or any wet gear, so we'll leave that for another year. The undercard, Tommy, the
I'm just
worst.
surprised. I'm just surprised because when before I moved to y'all, one of the things that always amazed me is it's like they don't feel the weather down here. I remember one New Year's Day, it was miserable. I mean, now maybe the fact I was hungover or something, but it was a miserable day. And I was inside the car and the heat up to the last, and I look out the window, the two lads walking around in a pair of shorts and t-shirts. What is this county? What?
It's Cork
Anyway,
by.
that's Cork. Yeah.
Um, Before we get to the Bartley, let's mention Droopy Supply, a good winner from the outside in the consolation. You made a case about you made a case from when we were speaking earlier in the evening. Uh, it was easy to see it in terms of if the other Kobe wasn't going to win, there was going to be sort of crowding on the inside, and we know how strong Droopy Supply is. Off the second bend, there was only going to be one winner.
Yeah, definitely. And in fairness, I did think that Lemon Mick was a real player, but just that draw was like he had to do so much early,
Showed
and he did
tremendous early speed,
he
Tommy.
did so much early. He did so
Yeah.
much early as well. And actually look, I thought he was a certainty to pick up Lemon Mick, the Druby Supply when he got around the way he did. I took a bit of the tens, took a bit of fours without the favourite, just in case the other Kobe took a flyer. But I found it hard to fancy the other Kobe. Um, like time catches up with us all. I used to have hair like Elvis one time. Like time catches up. Like the other Kobe.
Uh,
Actually, you know what? He's
I'm
still
not sure.
no.
I'm not
That's to
sure
say,
Elvis. I'm not sure Elvis had hair like you, though. No.
if he lasted long enough, he would have.
Uh,
The other Kobe actually, you know what? He's been such a smashing dog. And just like any run at this stage of his career is a bonus. Any good run, and he ran exceptionally well in the Sprint Cup. He ran exceptionally well in the Laurels for a long time. You know, he got
the present
to
the
the nitty
presence
gritty.
the presence of the ever professional Ballycount Bell in one is an issue because she's such a natural starter that he was going to need an absolute ping, and that didn't happen.
No, look, he broke well enough, but like
Yeah,
Lemon Mick showed exceptional early pace now. Like,
yeah, he
Lemon Mick
did.
is a
Yeah,
dog going places too. That like he's the type of dog now that he's in August 22. He's the type of dog now that Merck goes back up to the Dundalk International next year and gets him home over 550 when he flies out and takes the rails early. Do you know that's the type of dog
yeah,
that could win a select stakes or something like that.
yeah.
There's definitely
Top,
something in Lemon Mick.
top of the
There
ground
definitely is.
top of the ground when the sun is
Top of the
shining.
ground, top of the ground.
Lemon
Exactly.
Mick
No,
will be one to
100%,
look out for. Yeah,
100% top of the ground. But he ran a Miller, but it set up nicely. The makeup of the race, the makeup of the night, it suited Druby's Supply.
yeah.
And it was a really good performance.
Dynamic Force was sent off a 1 to 3 favourite. Industry SP for the Bart Leahy Memorial, €10,000 to the winner. It's now as big a part of the final night card at Cork as any other sort of big race in the calendar. Like that's its slot. Dynamic Force is a greyhound that would certainly have had a chance in the Laurels itself, and I would suggest will have a chance in the Derby just the way he's running. He's a really fast dog, but he's also showing plenty of power, which is something I didn't think I'd see when I spotted him early in his career. Paul Hennessy loves him as a greyhound. A wide seed winning around Curaheen Park on Saturday night, as we said, conditions were in his favour, but like this fella had plenty in his favour anyway. The 28.77 at the time was a huge, huge run. Track wasn't quite as going as well now as it was for the Laurels, half an hour later. But he's a hell of a dog.
He's a hell of a doggy. When he did 2809 come from behind in the second round, was it? The 2809, I was like, wow, what can this dog do? He, as I said here a couple of weeks ago, he's running 5 to 5 like he ran sprints, which kind of surprised me. I thought he'd be out and gone. I love the fact that he's not out and gone, and he's shown the stamina at the moment because I think the trapping will come again. The trapping will come again. I'd be interested to see how he'll run in Shelbourne Park. Um, Paul Hennessy is the eternal optimist, come eternal pessimist when it comes close to a race. He's everything is really positive, and then closer you get to the race. Oh no, no, God, no, no. I said to him, Paul, after before the semi-final, I said, Paul, I can't believe it. Back this dog at 6-1. I said, I had all the information I needed. I liked the dog, and I knew that this is the competition for him, and he's like, oh no, no, that this and that, and but after the race the other night, he was in great form, and
Yeah,
rightly so. Like it's 10 grand. It's like I mean, the runner up the Laurels got less than that. You know what I mean? So it's like
yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
huge stake. It's a
No,
it's a it's a, it's a, it's a he's a really good dog going places. We have to remember he's still very inexperienced. Just because we've been talking about, I sometimes think when we're on this and we're talking about them over the course of maybe 8 or 10 weeks, you feel like they've been around forever. He hasn't. He was a novice in the Bar One Sprint Cup and ran
I
exceptionally well.
I referenced me calling out George Watson and the boys with March on Freddie. This fellow's 13 races, Tommy.
Yeah,
13 races. That's more than four of the last five Derby winners had in the first round of the Derby.
and I met his owner the other night, and he was in a mighty form as well. Actually, after, and of
I
course they're
met
going
him
to
in
go
Friday
for
night.
the
I met him in Friday night at Shelbourne, and he was looking forward to
yeah.
it. It was all targets. And I was going, oh, yeah,
Do you know
you make a visit to Shelbourne Park. He said, we'll be back here soon.
the funny thing you said a minute ago? The conditions suit him. Um, if you would say that to me before the start of the competition, it'll go be heavy on Laurel's final night, and he'd be in the final, I'd be saying, "Ooh, I worry about that." but he just like the very first round, he looked like a stayer. The second round, he certainly did the way he did 28 or 9. The way that run is stuck in my mind. I actually. I actually was trying to make a case just because you're going trying to go against long odds on. Even though I tipped Dynamic Force, he was an obvious winner. But like I was trying to make a case for Croker Sydney that maybe Battling Yank would break like it did in the semi final and get in the way of Dynamic Force, and maybe Croker City can break better than he did in the semi final, and he might get away. But once the conditions of the track were like that, I actually thought Croker City's a million to one. He ran a super race,
he
even though
actually
he's
ran a
beaten eight and a
cracker.
half
He ran
lengths.
an unbelievable
Ran,
race in second. Yeah.
ran a cracking race, ran a super
I
race
spoke to
actually.
Vincent. I was trying to get the connections of the finalists, and you get to see everyone down the weigh room. And I saw Vincent McKenna walking the dog in. I said, if you told me, a few months ago that this dog would come from behind to win a 5.25, I'd have laughed at you because he's
Yeah,
all about early speed. And the other evening,
yeah,
in the heavy conditions, running on as well as he
yeah,
did, I tell you what,
yeah.
keep an eye on Croker Sydney. He's just a dark horse now. He'll pop up some night at a decent price in
Yeah,
good
he will.
company,
Yeah.
and you'll go, sugar, we should have been on him. I assume the 1 to 3 on Dynamic Force isn't too far wide of the mark in terms of the industry SP to what's on track.
2 to 5 or so.
Yeah,
2 to 5
yeah,
or
yeah.
so.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
I
pretty much,
assume that
pretty
would be
much.
the case.
Yeah,
Tommy, obviously there was, it was a messy enough little final, but we have to mention that it was a wonderful, wonderful competition. The Horgans Delicatessen Supplies Limited Mitchelstown ON1 525 final. Let's just call it the Horgans Deli Open Unraced, right? Sing Along Rex is a nice dog, no question about it. But so too are the two in behind. Swords Don, we know how good and how promising he is. I'm a huge fan of Romeo Empire. I would, I'm really looking forward to see where he goes from here. But I think the three very good greyhounds. Again, this unraced stake on Laurels Fine Light has thrown some real stars over the years, and here we are. It's under a different name, but I'll tell you what, keep an eye out for these three.
yeah. Like the winner when he broke as well as did the race was over. I felt I was amazed that Sort got as close to the length and a half in the end. I know it was the testing and all that. Like Sing Along Rex looked like a stayer the previous week, if I remember rightly. Yeah, ran on his down. I know Romeo Empire was making great ground in that heat as well. But I think these are proper greyhounds. I mean, the trouble the sort Don got and to finish within length and a half is remarkable. He walked out. He's a big 84-pound dog. He's at least 7 pound bigger than anything else in that final. He came out poor enough, and then got a bump straight away. Got really badly done at the first bend and flew home. But I wouldn't like to take a lot away from Sing Along Rex. I think even though he looked like he was staying well the previous day, I still think on top of the ground he'd go a long way clearing races like that. There's plenty more to come. I wouldn't like to say for definite, even though you might look at the videos and think the opposite. I wouldn't like to say for definite that the best dog didn't win that. There's plenty of improvements in Sing Along Rex.
His litter are very good, very good litter.
Yeah,
The dam is throwing them, and there's plenty of stamina in the litter.
yeah,
I'd say, as you say, Tommy, like a wind at that stage, he's out in front, setting the
yeah.
pace. He's cutting the air for a couple of those in behind now. Like I'm not sure there was much of a drag effect the other evening, but like a pup having his second race in those conditions, it's
Yeah.
understandable that he's sort of getting tired and into the absolute teeth of the breeze at that stage in the evening up the home straight. Like he's bound to be coming back to them a bit, and the other dogs haven't been able to do the running early, and that's why they're running on.
I
As you say, Tommy, there's oodles to come for the first three, no question about it.
yeah,
I think we'll be hearing plenty of them, including Sing Along Rex. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Just as a reminder of the card, Tommy, let's go through each winner. Eclan Beauty, obviously that was the worst of the conditions. We didn't know what to make of the track at that point in proceedings. You see 31-35, it's a better run than that.
yeah, exactly. But like I say, at that stage we were only kind of guessing how bad things
Yeah.
were out there in terms of how much stamina required and Cam Beauty ran on well and everything. I thought it was a nice performance. I didn't have a clue what to make of it. When you look at it first, you say is that a 5.75, but then if you didn't realize that the track was soft at the time, I do think all the work they did during the day and then continued to do during the night made a difference as it did speed up a bit.
It did. It definitely
I don't
sped
think
up.
I don't think
Like it's
like they
50
say
slow for the
50
first
there.
2 or 3 races there. Like it should have been a second slow,
Yeah, it could
or
have been.
certainly 70 slow or 80 slow.
Yeah, it could, it
Um,
could, it could have been.
what I was going to say there, yeah, Lads Bluebell won the second, 28.95. A strange type of card, Lads Bluebell. She's returning after a fairly lengthy layoff. She'd been off for close to 6 months. Prior to her layoff, she finished fifth or sixth in her 6 starts. Prior to that, she had a 28:34 in Cork. She'd won a seven, or she'd raced in Six Bend Company around Cork last year. So probably no surprise that she handled the conditions. But after a long, long layoff, winning at 16-1, good job done by it's down to
Well, Joe
Mary
Mackey, yeah,
Mackey. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Joe Mackey, but she ran very, 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 very well. I think doing 28.95 in light of everything, the track and the layoff, conditions would have suited, no doubt
yeah.
about it. It would have been hard to find out 16-1.
Yeah. Ballyhooly TJ, an old pal of ours, Tommy. I spoke to Tom before racing. He says, I'm not sure about the trip tonight. I said, I think the conditions might be okay for you, Tom. I'll be backing you anyway. I had a few quid on Ballyhooly TJ. He's fifth at the third bend. And funny enough, I thought he was going to win. Having seen him
Yeah.
finish like he did in Shelbourne over the 600, the long run in for the five, or it's not, I wasn't even the long run. I thought it was the 575. It's a 550 the other evening. Of course, it was the first winning line. That actually caught me out. I thought it was the 575 he was in. He had been entered for 750, but he only got three entries, one of which was Tono Charlie. And of course, then you throw an open 750 in the mix at Shelbourne Park, which is going to drag a few away. They were never going to fill that contest, sadly enough, because it would have been great to see Tono Charlie in action. But Ballyhooly TJ, get him back over six bends soon. This was pretty emphatic, Tommy. Like he came high, wide, and handsome, as they say.
In some ways, it's an ideal race for a dog like that. A tough track over 550 and not have to run the 750 again. At the moment, give him a bit of a break from the 750s. He's a smashing dog. I mean, Middleridge Levi is a very good dog, but like Ballyhooly TJ had been taken on Kintarp Road and Tuono Charlie and the like in recent times. So I think I'd say it felt a little bit easier. It didn't look easier because he was stone last out of traps. He was got a bump at the
Yeah.
first bend. He was out wide down the back. He didn't know where he was going to go. And considering you thought of the 575, and that's the reason you might win, I think you should go back and give that money back to the toast.
Listen, every little bit helps, you know yourself. Isn't it remarkable how the pedigrees are,
It's
are so are so prominent and in terms of racing styles and whatnot now? And like I know Lemon Bell has thrown ones with few, or Cat's Bell has thrown one or two with early speed, but like he's a ringer for Beach Avenue, like his half brother,
yeah,
isn't he? Like he's
yeah,
just a ringer for him.
yeah.
And you'd have similar sport with them, I'd suggest. Tom said, "What do you do with him?" Yeah, I said, Tom, throw him into the
You said the
derby.
Derby,
Like
didn't you?
if he
You said
if
the
he doesn't
Derby,
win,
didn't
if
you?
he doesn't get to the Derby final, sure you have the 750 Derby final. Like, but sure, what's the harm in throwing him into the
If Tom,
Derby?
if Tom had said to you, "I have a pet poodle at home," what I do with him, you'd have said, "Put him in the Derby for crying out loud."
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's my
Well,
that's my that's my take. But listen, could you see this fella in the quarterfinal of a Derby?
no.
A lot of early,
No.
lot of early speed in a Derby.
I,
They can't
I,
all get
I,
around
I,
that corner in front, and you'll have something finishing like a train every night.
look, he could, and actually, Tom
Yeah.
went close in the Derby. Don't
This is
think
a
this is
little.
the one to win it for
Th-
him, but someday
no,
maybe.
no, not to win it from. But this is one that could be clipped now in a few weeks' time, Tommy. Just remember that, right? Tribal Sid came from off the pace, Tommy. Yes, you heard me correctly. Tribal Sid
Yes,
came from
yeah,
off the pace.
yeah.
He showed another string to his bow. Like it was a decent contest, but he got motoring down that back straight, got to the front, and I thought it was a good display. And you'd imagine he'll take his chance in the Derby.
He'll have to, and he will break better, and he will go clear, and he has a bit of 550 form. Was he second in the Dundalk International?
He was second
Um,
at Dundalk International. And he actually, up to recent times, he had, I think, the second fastest time of the year for 550 at Shelbourne. And he did 29:32 in Shelbourne on the 10th of
he,
August. And if you actually, but forget about the 29:32, that night it was all about 50, or 16:83 to the third bend. Like that's
that's what he
that's
does.
that's Pastana stuff. Like that's
That's what he
Pastana and
does.
Ewan Taylor. Like Susie Sapphire, I think only beat that once in her Derby run. Like that tells you how fast he was to the third bend that night. So that's what you're looking at.
He's a smashing dog. Look, I didn't fancy him for the Laurel as much about the seeding and eh, I thought a lot of runs to do things right, and he's so dependent on getting it right at the boxes. This is a smash and run now. This is a smash and run, but I think I'd like to see him. I think even though 550 stretches him, I think he's that long run up is great. He's one of those we talk about loads of dogs that are like that. That long run up will help him to get an extra length clear around the bend when he's at his best and he's breaking. I think that was off a short break that run, wasn't it? So I mean, he's not much of him, but he's sharpen up again for that, and you can
Yeah.
only imagine he has to go for the Derby.
Yeah, no question. Footfield Violet won well for Johnny Linnen in the Bitch 525. Looked like plenty was going Johnny's way at that point in proceedings. After that, Hurler Rocco won the 575. That was a very competitive race. They were hoping to have that on TV, but we just ran out of time. There's just when there's so many people for the parade, for the presentation, for the final, like the race after the final, you're never going to go off in time, and that was definitely the case on Saturday night. Valley's Angel won well in the Clona Duke at Stud 525, the penultimate race on the card, and then Ballyhimmick and Leo. Good to see this fellow back winning ways. Really nice. Type Billy and John Dunn. They always have a good one around them. And Ballyhimmick and Leo, a couple of breaks in his card, but like that's his first win in. Oh, what are we talking? Yeah, his last win came in the English Derby,
Mm,
one of the early rounds
mm.
in 2023. So they've done that recently. They've done that in recent years. Brought dogs back from obvious problems and whatnot. Like, he's the son of their own sire, Ballyhimmick and Jet, who made such a bright start to his stud career. Just good to see dogs like that getting a crack at it, Tommy.
Yeah, it is a course. It is a course. It's obviously not an easy dog to have right all the time, but ran very well. You might actually just going back to her rocker that Jerome Crowley doesn't keep too many greyhounds, I don't think. Shrewd man with a dog though.
There's plenty of them down that direction. Plenty of
My,
them down that
my God,
direction.
there are.
You
My
may
God,
you
there
may
are.
sing it, Ian. Um, we'll move on from Curaheen Park once again. A tremendous bar one racing Irish Laurels,
Yeah.
a superb winner. Our heartiest congratulations to sponsors, to those involved in the track, but especially to the MWD syndicate, led by Mike Davis, and of course, Pat Norris and his family. A great success the other evening. They were absolutely over the moon, and only right that they were over the moon. A tremendous performance in training this bitch. She settled in great. She obviously likes the Cork air, and as Tommy said, she probably likes the air everywhere. To be honest, she's so
Yeah.
versatile. She's just an absolute pro, and just wonderful to
True.
see a star winning one of our most prestigious races. And on these nights, Tommy, you just hope that it's won by something rather than lost by something. And she
Well,
went out and won it.
every time there's a decent race on any race, you hope it's won by something rather than lost by something. As I said earlier on, the kind of conditions of the race or the draw for the race more than anything else made it so that something had to pop up and say, if you want to win it, you have to show your class. She did. I won't say it very often, but it's true that, as I said a while ago, the final is better than the Laurels have. It was the best part of the Laurels, that final.
Yeah, and that's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want the best race of the competition to be the finale, and that's exactly what we had. Well done again to all involved. Now we move to Shelbourne Park because there's a couple of bits and pieces coming up in the weeks to come. Tommy at Shelbourne. I don't know if you've heard about it. I just want to mention a couple of things before we get to Saturday night. Razzle Dazzle Edward impressed again in the. There's an open. It's not an open on race. It's an ON2 race going on at present on the Thursday nights. Razzle Dazzle Edward looks a really nice type for Dolores Ruth. 28:38. Mina Minsk won the other heat in 28:69. Nice types that final on Thursday at Shelbourne. Friday night, we saw some good performances. Good Izzy was a very good win over 600 yards for the Kennedy clan. They've had plenty of reason to smile in recent weeks. That was her first victory. Won't be her last. She looks very strong. Daniel Ruth got up in the line to win the Go Greyhound Racing Open Bitch 525 final. Carrick Fergie. Great to see him back to winning ways. Last year's champion open on race winner at Kilkenny. Well, he's after winning two in the bounce now at Shelbourne Park, both from Trap One. And if you give him Trap One through the Derby, he'll make few dogs sweat. He can run a bit. 29.74, and then there was the Open 525. The first heat was won by unanimous Roxy. She's a sister. She's a sister to Sing Along Rex. She's pretty useful. She did 28.33. And Hawkfield Blue, good to see him back to his very, very best. 28.07. And I know Jamie McGee is very bullish about this fellow, and he's hoping that he'll go deep enough into the Derby. He went deep into the English Derby, went a bit wrong on them. They're after nursing him back. He is absolutely 100% firing on all cylinders. 28.07. He'll have another run this week on Friday night in the final of that Open 525. That could absolutely set him up perfectly for a crack at the Derby. Now let's get to Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, Tommy, because I think it's safe to say we're at that point of the year where we did see some Derby clues. We will get to our Derby favourite in a few minutes, but before then, we have to talk about the Maiden Derby. Sadly, Hussein Pickles was the non-runner. I know she was nursing a little problem through the latter stage of the juvenile derby. She ran so well in the early rounds of this maiden derby, took a bump last week in the semis, but was withdrawn from the final. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. I don't believe it is. It left just a little bit of extra room for Bombay Pat. He trapped reasonably well. Like, he's never going to be a flying starter, but by God, he loves that long run to the corner. This fellow, Tommy, can really run. 17.04 to the third bend, 29.35 was it. Um, He's fluent, he's powerful. Like Tarzan Amasai turned relatively close in second spot. The best part of his race is to the third bend, and Bombay Pat just sort of just left him and just ran away from him. He is now sort of what, 12 to 1 for Derby Glory. You can see he's 10 to 1 with the sponsors for Derby Glory, fourth in. I think it's fair enough reflection of his chances. I think I'd nearly like to favourite myself at 10 to 1 and then push everything else back. But it's looking a touch top heavy at the top of the market at the moment, but Bombay Pat is certainly amongst those with huge claims in this derby.
Like at worse prices than the Derby, you have $5 between 8 to 1 or lower for the Derby. Like 6 rounds of a Derby. I mean, that's very much in favour of the layers. It'll be interesting to see. Normally, there's a bit of a switch up just before the competition gets underway. So when the draw is made, probably Monday week, this day week.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see is there a change? And it might give a bit of an ease and where they can start a kind of a new book almost. Something has to change because it's all too tight. But Bombay Pat himself, that's as well as he's broken. He broke almost level. Now I was going to say there wasn't a huge amount of barely pacing, but Tarzan Masai was wildly impressed with the previous week.
and the previous
And
week to that, and the previous week to that. He's not.
but like for
Sorry, he's
but
nearly
for
knocked the
last
computer
well
over.
last week it was last week's one that I really liked. I really liked his run last week. The fact that
And
Bombay
Ca
Pat
and
took about two and a
Cazador
half
and Cazador in two has tremendous early speed as well. Like it wasn't one of those
didn't
races
yeah
where you go, like, there was
yeah
no
it's,
early, but there was early pace in the race.
there was, but it just didn't transpire. Sometimes that
Mm.
can happen. Bombay Pat, the fact that he took 2.5 to 3 lengths out of Tarzan Masai between 2 and 3 was
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
huge, absolutely huge effort. Like we talked there a while ago, that we might have too many standout Derby dogs. They're just beginning to pop their head up and say, "Hey, you didn't spot me." Like
Yeah.
this dog is relatively inexperienced too. I mean,
And
that's its
and
third
there
run
and
at
there are
Shelbourne Park.
one or two that we've sort of forgotten about that are all of a sudden now just peeking their head out
Yeah,
again and going, "Hi." There's a certain English
yeah.
Derby winner, the laddie that trialled very well at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. He seems right as rain, and he took a clip as well, a pretty notable clip by the sponsors. I'll talk about another one in a minute. Bombay Pat, this maiden derby, it was made like as soon as we saw the qualifications for this competition, you knew something would emerge from it. And it's not just Bombay Pat that'll appear from it. Like Tarzan Masai could easily be in a quarter final of a derby. Like that's how impressive he was. Like he just ran into one Saturday night. Like that happens. You know what I mean? But he's certainly capable of going deep into a derby. Born to Perform got better through the competition. Even the other pair, Omi missed and Cazador can't be completely dismissed in certainly the early rounds of a derby. Like there was real strength in it. And the time of this race, like it really does stack up across the card. Like 29:35 for the 550 yards in October in Shelbourne Park. That'll do.
That'll do, and the fact that he looks quite strong is a big asset, and the fact that he's going to be improving with each run, all those things are assets to him as a Derby dog. Because we'll get on to Buckler's Diamond after a while, but yeah, it's he's a definite player.
We'll get on to Bucko's Diamond now, Tommy, because he is, of course, a kennel companion to Bombay Pat, and he went a full 46 spots lower. And yet
Mhm.
he's half the price of Bombay Pat, albeit that they're probably both too short. But this Bucko's Diamond, someone asked me afterwards, well, how did Bucko's Diamond run? 9 out of 10 to the third bend, probably a 4.5, 5 out of 10 from the third bend. Although he probably did dig in the last few strides. Um, we've said it. He's not like absolutely fully tuned, but he's ready to race. He missed the kick. His pace into the corner, Tommy, was pretty spectacular. Like whenever about the maiden derby, there was loads of early speed in this race. Like from to get up inside likes of Seven Beach and short grip, and even leading the likes of cheap sandwiches. This was a hell of a run to the
I,
certainly to the
I, I
third bend.
just
Hmm?
I just can't believe that he was able to get up inside Seven Beach.
Yeah,
And actually, to be honest about it, the more I watch it, right, and I kind of appreciated it at the time, although I got a little bit of a heart attack in the last 50 yards. I appreciated what he had done to the bend in terms of, when you walk out and you're last out of boxes, which he was, not he's only a length behind him out of boxes, but like there was a gap there in the first 20 yards, but it closed fairly quickly and he had to
yeah.
decide I'm going through it regardless. And it kind of he had to weave a little bit to get through because he moved off right and got forced in by Seven Beach going a little left. How we get up there, I don't know. Somebody said to me after the race, "Oh, look, sure, Cheap Sandwiches would have won if he hadn't got a break, if he hadn't got the bump at the bend." I said, "Well, yeah, but if the two dogs had got a clear run early, he'd have won. He'd rather been eight clear down to the third bend." Is the reality of it,
Yeah.
Now he's going to be dependent on he's going to be dependent on braking. If he's only barely getting home at the moment, and like the problem is a summer derby, I'd be expecting that's not going to be a problem. But this is a winter derby effectively, and it's going to be tougher.
I would say connections. They have a couple of chances to get it right, but their decision on seeding is going to be pretty big. If he was
You said
mine,
this last week.
if he was mine,
Yeah,
I think I'd stick a W on him because I think he'll go up reasonably straight. It's on the corner he'll cut in, but I think there's probably more room. He's more likely to get a kind draw. Like you stick him in two or three. And who's to say, like, let's say Droopy's Buckham arrives up in Shelbourne Park. We saw him on Saturday night at Cork. Hugely fast greyhound, hugely fast greyhound, but very lightly raced. And he dived straight in from trap four. Now, let's say he's in three. I don't think he can match Buckham's down to the corner. Not, don't get me wrong. Very few can. But I'll tell you what, he can match him for a stride. And that's all it needs. Whereas you stick him out in six, and he's going to be in six. You stick a W on him, he's going to be in six basically every night, if not five. And we know we can handle five. Whereas you stick an inside on him, and he's in four some night, or he's in worse again, he's in two or three, and he's got something like a Buckham or a dog like that that's going to be diving left from boxes. It's going to be very, very worrisome. For me, I'd stick a W on him.
he had a W on him,
Yeah.
and he raced out of six three times, four times, five times here. Looking at there, then he went. Then they had a W on him in Cork on the 15th of June, right? And then when he went into the competition this for the David Fitzgibbon Memorial, they switched it to a middle. Now it made no difference because he ended up in sixth anyway. So it's curious that they changed it from a wide to a middle. He was wide for the first five runs of his career, and I suspect you raised it last week, and if you look at this, if you look at the final in Curaheen Park, the final of the David Fitzgibbon Memorial, the pace he showed and the line he took out of six, you'd have to say, geez, he just loves a bit of freedom. He just loves
Yeah.
having a bit of space. I don't think that, I don't see the negative of trap six. They won a derby. Graham knows what it takes to win a derby out of six with a wide runner. He
He reminds me greatly of Lenson Bocco, who was obviously owned by many of the same people. In terms of, I would have thought he was more of an inside seed, but he won his derby from the outside because he used to race up on the outside, cut across when he had the room, and go. And I think this fellow is very similar in that sort of
I think
style.
you're right.
He does
I
a
think you're right.
he does a 360 the other night. I don't think he'll ever do a 360 from the outside.
No, I don't either. 360, yeah, there you go. Like, that's shocking start, really and truly. And then, and make it worse, he had to bob and weave and hold his ground at the bend and do lots of things. I mean, it's a lot better run than it looked. And we're nitpicking because he's five or six to he's five with one firm, six with a couple of firms to win the derby. It's all very short over six rounds. When you see the likes of Cheap Sounds and Bombay, Pat, Boyle Sports, Bob, and Seven Beach, all these dogs that are still there as players in the derby, the laddie da, obviously. I mean, it's a much better derby than 5-1 the field now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that. And now there are liabilities, and I don't know how much people can get on these dogs in anti-post, especially months in advance. But like I know a lot of people in Curaheen Park started back Buckler's Diamond after his runs in Cork, and I would one judge. There's one judge in one fella in Curaheen who I would rate above anybody else when I'm talking about dogs, and he said he's the greatest greyhound he's ever seen in Curaheen Park. What he was doing, and he's a clocks man as well.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a hand time clock man. He's not a kind of he's not
yeah, yeah,
looking at
yeah.
the dog. He does his own
Old
clocks.
school, Tom. Old school. We we
Oh,
ca-
he's old school.
we call it analog.
He's old school, and I would have the height of respect for his opinion.
Yeah.
And he says it's the best dog he's ever seen in Curaheen Park, and that's saying
He's
something.
we've obviously been talking about sequences of long, like he's now nine in a row. Like he's only
But
suffered
he
one
this,
defeat, and
this is
his only defeat came at Kilkenny at the paws of Broadstrand Sid, and he's beaten Broadstrand Sid, a couple of times himself.
And
Uh,
I think part of what we know and think about him is in my mind anyway. is what he did to Broadstrand Sid. Knowing
Yeah,
what Broadstrand could do at the time, knowing what Broadstrand Sid could do now and has done since. Um, like that's what's most amazing about, potentially amazing about him. Like if he's running, to my mind, I know he's running a great race in many, many ways the other night, and he's 4 to 5 and all that sort of stuff. So you're thinking, he should win and win impressively. But I really liked the fact that he dug in twice. I would be concerned if there were 6 rounds of heavy going, and that I don't think that'll be the case. The track will be immaculately maintained, and it
yeah,
won't be like that unless conditions are like they were the other night in Curaheen Park. Um, I think he's tough enough to get away with it, but you have to love the fact that this dog. You said it there at the start, and you mentioned him first. You said he seemed to pick up again, and that's like he doesn't have a record like he had for no reason. You don't just like you one trick ponies don't win 10 out of 11.
yeah. Well, here's a dog.
Dog,
Here's a dog who's scarcely seen a rival. Well, certainly hasn't seen a rival apart from Seven Beach in his last 5 or 6 races. He's only like his first one, two, three, four, his first 8 starts all came from the stripes. Every single one of them. His only defeat in the second start came against Broadstrand Sid, but largely he's been basically dominant in certainly his last five or
What's
six
on Sid
races.
gave him plenty to think about now.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's entitled because like we're talking about Broadstrand Sid is one of the greatest we've seen. Certainly one of the best sprinters
Yeah,
I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
his
yeah.
runs in Dundalk are phenomenal, off the chart stuff. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with him in terms of seeding, but like I think there's a real desire to win. Like the fact that he's not having things as easy now will stand to him in the long run. You know what I mean?
I
Like
think so.
his last 2 starts, even if he runs in when he runs in the Derby, he's not going to get as tough a race until the Derby quarterfinals, the earliest.
Yeah, yeah. You're right in the sense that like you think that he probably first four qualifying the first round and first three after that. Um, but I don't think he's dog is easy on himself now. I think he
No,
desperately wants to win, regardless
yeah,
of what happens. He desperately wants to win, so he's going to give it all. Look, he's still my idea at the moment of the most likely Derby winner because I do know that the runs he produced in Curaheen Park and the sections he produced there, and the section and the performance he produced in Kilkenny are, and in his trial in
Shelbourne.
in Shelbourne Park are still suggesting that he's an awful lot better than he's shown in 2 runs in Shelbourne Park. And in this 550, I loved his run against Seven Beast the previous week. I absolutely loved that he dug so deep because I have the height of respect for Seven Beach as a greyhound. I think he's a serious dog.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the run of Bucko's Diamond into the corner the other evening, like, that's the most impressive thing he's done in Shelbourne. That
Yeah,
from 5 yards in to the opening corner. I'm not sure there are like Broadstrand said. Is there any other dogs in the country that could have gone around in front from where he was
I
after 2 strides?
I assume he's not going to run next Saturday night. I mean, I don't think there would be any point in that.
No, no, that was a
Um,
fine. That was a final last Saturday. I'd say he's
No, I know
absolutely
that, but I'm saying,
pitch
I'm
perfect
saying,
now.
I,
Yeah,
don't, I assume he's not going to have another run, even though,
no,
even though
no.
you and I are thinking that he's slightly undercooked at the moment. Um, I think you have to take a chance of probably putting a wide seat on him for the first round of the Derby, and take it off if you want after the first round.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, we'll see what they do. See what they do. I know there is a
It'll
slight
be
difference
interesting to
of.
see.
I know there is a difference opinion in the camp. I was talking to the owner last week, and he
Right,
has one view,
right.
and Graham has another view. But that may well have changed after Saturday night. When you see them in trap two, missing the kick and having to force their way through that gap,
Took a
all
step
of a
to the
sudden
right as well,
it can
but
it
then
can
back.
just
Yeah,
it can give you a little. It can just give you a little moment of clarity. So like they could all be on the same page now. Like we're talking about inside or middle or wide. He could have been a middle, and sure, they can guaranteed 4 or 5 most nights. Anyway, that was Bocco's Diamond, a tremendous winner. Just a few of the winners on the night I want to mention. Um, our pal, Big Jim, Balnabola Jim, 2972, Tommy,
yeah.
just a joy to own. Tremendous success for him. Paul Stawn won well, and Fahy Hazel won the finale. Balnabola Jim, Tommy, big 89 pounder. He's running absolutely out of his skin.
Yeah, he used every bit of his weight, but you know what? The other night because he had to battle for that position around the opening pin. I just love the performance, and I love the fact that a dog his size had that agility. I mean, that's a terrific performance. You said it there
Yeah,
before we came on air. He must be just such a great dog to own. He really must.
yeah. Now, I got the text. I was sort of half expected. I didn't tip Buzz
Well,
Bob to be the first three. I thought it was a tough comeback run for him. Like he was facing some hot company. He hadn't been seen in quite some time. Thought he might need the run. Well, Tommy, if he needed the run, I think we should start considering this fellow a potential Derby winner. Obviously, an English Derby finalist, English Derby runner-up. He's a hugely fast greyhound. 29:39, Tommy. Can't be sniffed at. This is a proper greyhound.
as Paul said Saturday night in Curly Pack, I just wanted to blow the cobwebs away with him. Well, I think he blew them away, right? 29, 39. And I tell you
Yeah.
what, the poor man nearly needed counselling anyway after the dog not being on top of the card. He couldn't believe it. He was
It wasn't, and it
distressed.
wasn't Paul.
He
It
was,
wasn't Paul I was getting abuse from. It was Kevin.
well, poor Paul was distressed about it. I have to sort of beam.
Yeah, the gas
You have
thing
to
is
ring him, make sure he's okay today.
there's gas thing. The gas thing is you tip it, you tip other people's dogs and they give out to you. You know, that's sort
They
of like
hate it.
you
Yeah, yeah,
can't win.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
can't win. You can't win. You
yeah.
can't win. Let's talk about just a few of the other winners. Extra gain. Our pal led early in the 575 1 and 31:13. Southwood Stan was a good winner. He's in decent provincial form for Adam Dunford. Missed a kick in his previous start at Shelbourne Park, or sorry, got traffic on the corner and obviously ran into one as well in Hawkfield Abbey. But I thought ran very well on Saturday night. Got loose early. Crescent Emily was a brilliant winner of the 750. This lady was last early. She showed great pace to get involved. She's a real sort of, how would you say it? A real progressive type. She's probably like she had some good form all the way along down in the likes of Limerick and Clonmel and Thurles, but it's only in recent weeks and months that she's really started to fly. She won a couple of races down in Limerick in good style back in July, and she came to Shelbourne. Then she won a 575 in really good fashion, picking up Glenlara Blue. He's been absolutely flying since then. She then won over sixpence Kilkenny. She came back to Shelbourne, did 30.73 for the 575. She now have to win in two 750s, one in 41.69 and one in 41.67. And in neither race did she lead early. She's absolutely motoring. Like she came from behind the likes of Kinturk Road and Droopy's Comrade on Saturday night. Thought it was a big run. She's a really nice type. Keep an eye on this one, Tommy. You know, when Tono Charlie goes back over 750, and I'm sure he will at some point. This is a lady that just given plenty to think about if she sharpened up early. You know, she's going to have to sharpen up early, or else she's going to find herself trying to pick up pick up
He,
impossible ground on him.
I
Um,
think I know you spotted the other night. The Druby Comrade remains the greatest certainty of all time for that 850.
yeah,
He's not,
850 to win the race.
and he's going to lead around.
Yeah. He's huge
He's,
finisher.
I tell you what, he's just bubbling under.
Yeah.
It's there. It's nearly there. It's nearly there. It's going to happen.
He missed the kick. You know, sorry, he found traffic
He
problems off
broke
the
and got
second bend
squeezed
and
back. Yeah,
got
yeah,
squeezed
yeah.
back, and that was the issue there. Ballymac
He's,
Wendy was a good winner in the open bitch 525. Direct, it's a dual distance. I was going to say direct debit. I just saw DD. Dual distance. Ballymac Wendy winning from Bocco's Crystal, of course, last year's Derby runner-up. She's only beat three parts of length. There's still desire there, but she's probably not the bitch she once was, but she's still running hard. But the second semi-final I thought was pretty telling. Mustang Fever was a good winner. Don't get me wrong, Mustang Fever is a hell of a nice bitch for Sean Burke, Paul Harrigan, and of course trainer Paul Pat Guilfoyle. She ran very well, but hard not to be greatly encouraged by the run of Ballymac Danica in second spot. We hadn't seen her in a long time. I know she had a toe problem earlier in the year. Liam has nursed her back. She hadn't run since May. She leads. She shows tremendous early speed after just a few sprint trials. She blew up a bit, Tommy. She's beaten the length in 28:22. If she finds even a length or two on that in the next week or two, we have a player in the derby.
we have a player in the derby, and she will find and the beauty is that she showed the sharpness, the early pace to lead Mustang Fever, which is no mean feat. And you'd think that she will take a few runs to get to her best, and obviously you don't get much time when you're stepping up a trip. Trip isn't the problem. I think she will improve. You know, you'd like to see her if she gets through two rounds, she could get through 5 rounds.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
she'll have a run next Saturday night in the final of this, so
yeah,
she should be
yeah,
even. She'll nearly be match
yeah,
perfect by the second round, you'd expect.
yeah,
And undulation is beating a length and seven lengths, and you go, oh, stumble traps, clear run. Like sometimes you see stumble traps. That's not even a stumble; it's just a slow start. Like I'm not even sure this was a stumble. This was a belly flop. She just came out on her belly. She's lengths and lengths behind her. 2:59. I'm surprised she even did that fast. She ran a big race. She trialed back in 28:05 the previous week after 28:34. Oh, I'd say this lady, like she was one of the favourites to win the Easter Cup earlier in the year. She was what 3-1, 3-1 chance in the final behind Clonbrine Treaty. Hell of a run from her. I would suggest she'll still be there second or third round of the Derby and pitch it.
Yeah, and you know what? All these shrewd kennels are coming out now, and their dogs are just beginning to start to show their form again and at the right time. I mean, you have to. I mean, it's hard to keep a dog in the go and win a derby, 6 rounds of a derby. They're just the likes of Ballymacdanica, the likes of herself. They're just beginning to crop up again and say, hey, hold on, I could be a player here. Go deep into the derby. I think she could.
Yeah, one thing we didn't mention on the card, it was the one sad point was that Clonbrine Treaty seemed to pick up an injury
Yeah.
off the second bend. It was muscular, no question. I spoke to Timmy Holland briefly after racing at Cork on Saturday night, and he was of the opinion that he will race again. It's a muscle issue. So hopefully, touch wood, a three-time classic winner. But I'm afraid the Derby looks to be off the agenda for Clonbrine Treat, which is great sadness to the connections. But like, if ever you can use the expression, he owes them nothing, Tommy, I think it's with Clonbrine Treaty.
And the beauty of him is that he's a dog that's kind of had us debating over the course of his career. He's won plenty. He's been a terrific dog, but he's
No.
had us debating, wondering, is it just the fact he doesn't take to Shelbourne? What is it, or is it
Yeah,
this or that, or
he's won
what's
an Easter
happening?
Cup, but I agree with you. I agree
Yeah,
with you. His
yeah, yeah,
best
yeah.
form
We
has
did,
come at Limerick, there's
but
no
that's the
question.
same. We had that debate. We've had that debate with him, and he's won. He won the Kirby, and he won the
Ledger.
Ledger, and he won. Geez, he's just been a terrific dog.
Yeah,
And
no,
yet, and
he's
yet, and yet, we never felt like we got to the bottom of him, which is funny, but says more about us than him.
he's won two Ledgers, of course. He's four-time classic
Yes,
winner. Do I keep calling him a three-time classic winner? I'm doing him a complete injustice.
yeah, smashing dog,
Wow,
absolutely
holy God.
smashing dog.
Yeah, I never
Yeah,
realized. Yeah, I do. So, like, yeah, I would imagine if I was the owner of Clonbrine Treaty, and I'm sure Jim will be watching this in Mirren, get him right. Take your time and have a go at the Ledger next year. Three-time Ledger winner. That'd be
that would be
something else,
unbelievable,
wouldn't it? That would be unbelievable.
unbelievable.
Tommy, it's been a great week in Greyhound racing. We're coming into a very, very busy time, of course. The Laurels is just over, and all of a sudden, there's not time to breathe. You said it. This day next week, we probably won't be talking. We'll probably be talking on
Yeah,
Tuesday, maybe, given the fact that there's the Derby draw on the Monday. Um, it's just going to be absolutely erased to the line now. The Derby starts in less than 2 weeks, straight into the Winter Racing Festival. You have the likes of the Kingdom Derby, Christmas Oaks, and it's just been a crazy, crazy month and a half, 2 months ahead of us. Loads to look forward to. The brand new Shelbourne Park for the Derby, like, doesn't get much better than this.
looking forward to seeing Shelbourne Park actually when I go up there. I don't know. I don't know if I'll get up for heats there, but I get to the final this year. I haven't. I've missed a lot of them recently, and that has to stop. Um, I might try to get up for an area round too. It'll be a fleeting visit, just trying to fit everything in with kids and matches and work and oh my, I swear to God,
Uber.
no one
You're
said it
an
was going to
Uber.
be
You're not
easy,
a
but my
father. You're an Uber. That's what they call them.
and an Uber,
Uh,
an Uber is right. Like I
yeah.
say, Ubers get paid.
Yeah. Well, when I was driving home from Cork yesterday afternoon, trying to get a McDonald's in to shake off the old hangover, realizing I'm going to be 15 minutes late to scream at a share of 13-year-olds playing the cup semi-final in Camogue or in Gaelic football, you know, you think how have times changed? No, but listen, it's great to have the kids involved in sport. It's also great to uh, see plenty of young faces at Curaheen Park on Saturday night, Tommy. There's plenty of young people still interested in the game.
There are, yeah, Curry Pack would probably be as good an example in anywhere in the country because there seemed to be a great connection between young and old talking about the greyhounds, and there are a lot of people, a lot of young lads with strong opinions on greyhound racing, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, well done to Pat Norris, to the MWD syndicate, to all involved in Curaheen Park. A tremendous Laurels, really was a tremendous Laurels, a tremendous finish, and most importantly, an absolutely supremely impressive winner in the form of Crafty Shivoo. She's now won an Irish Oaks, she's won a Laurels, and who knows, she could well win a Derby. Speaking of which, the Derby draw will be next Monday, so we might not see you Monday evening. We might see you Tuesday. We'll see. That has to be discussed, but we'll keep you up to date. But that's it from Talking Dogs on this Monday evening. My thanks again to the exile dub Tommy Lyons. We'll see you maybe a week from now. Other than that, best of luck. We'll talk to you then.